The real estate market could be in danger. Hi, how's it going today? I'm Jason Walker. Thanks for tuning in and joining us today for this meeting. Today we're going to recap the 2023 real estate market, both locally and nationally. And we're going to look into the future a little bit for what 2024 may have in store. So bear with me a little bit. This is going to be a little bit lengthy, and I don't read from a teleprompter, nor am I told what to read or say. So anyway, 2023 was a bit of a twister of a year. Had its fair share of ups and downs. We've seen the interest rate go from 6% to 8.375 on mortgage rates. And the commercial side of things, we've seen interest rates go over 9%. It was a testing year, to say the least, in our market. In the last 3 years, the mortgage interest rates have gone from 3% to 8.75. So 2021, beginning of 2022, they were at 3%. And by November this year, they were at 8.375. That's a big change and a lot to swallow in such a less than 1,000 days, basically. A lot has changed, but coincidentally, we didn't. The real estate market didn't crash. Prices have not really gone down so much. And we'll jump into that here in a second. But as of right now, I feel like personally the real estate market is a little bit of a stalemate. It's not moving as fast as or swift as it was because of those interest rates. But we did see some relief right after Thanksgiving when rates went down 0.5 point to a point. So all of a sudden, that's going to there's going to be a little bit of a marination time period in the marketplace for that to absorb. But I think we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel here for buyers especially, and finding some relief for them moving into 2024. As I said, prices really didn't drop. That was a surprise to most. You were faced with high interest rates, high affordability, and high prices due to the lack of inventory or the lack of supply. And it's just basic economics 101. Low inventory, high demand, the price is going to move up or stay up, right? And we haven't seen prices go up so much the latter part of this year, but they stayed up. And I think for a good lot of the public, that was a surprise, maybe even a good surprise for us. I know I didn't know what to expect so much. I just know that it was a twister and a wild year, probably one of the wildest in history, definitely for sure one of the wildest in my 13 years of selling real estate. We see that properties that are in super good condition, that have no maintenance to them and have never been neglected, are driving a much higher price versus those that have been neglected and deferred maintenance, we find all over, are not driving such a high price. Are they driving a higher price than they were 3 years ago? The answer is yes. 2 years ago, the answer is yes. But right now, it's still a price war and a beauty contest. So sellers need to remember, you're not going to sell your property or sell your house like it's in mint condition when it's really not. So there's still a sizable pricing differential out there that we see that buyers are willing to give. And the same principles apply as even when the interest rates were at 2-3%. If it's move-in ready, they'll pay the premium. If it's not, they see work or maybe too much work, they'll either lowball the deal or they'll simply walk away and never make an offer. So I think sellers need to be mindful of that. We've seen it as much this year as any time, and we're going to continue to see that moving into 2024. We've seen buyers get buyer's exhaustion. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that, but buyers, there's a fair share of buyers out there that want to buy that just simply got exhausted the last 2 years. They got out competed on their offers. They were getting poor advice, whether it was from national media or social media or their friends or professional representatives or whatever. They just got beat up in the marketplace and they were exhausted. They simply fell off and kind of jumped on the fence, if you will, and got out of the marketplace and quit participating for a while. I think we're going to see those sorts of buyers coming back into the real estate market in 2024, especially if we see interest rates relax like we already have. Now, I talked about the average sale price a second ago. Even locally and nationally, we've seen, on average, I'm not saying any specific subdivision or any specific town or any geographic location, but on average, the latter part of this year, we've seen prices fall by 1% or 2%, which isn't a big thing. But when you look at the average sale price, in Northeast Wyoming just being shy of $300,000, all of a sudden 1% is like $10,000, $10,000 move in a 6-month period. So we did see buyers competing more strongly on the offering prices and getting things accepted at a lower price, but 1 or 2% slip isn't much, folks, and it could easily be rebounded at any given point in time moving forward. We have seen an influx of buyers asking for more concessions. So we went from 2021, 2022, where buyers were letting go of certain concessions just to get something bought to beat the race or have their offer be more appealing to the seller than others. We're seeing some of those concessions come back into play and more buyer demands coming to the table. So that's been interesting the latter part of this year. Current events that are affecting the real estate market, in my opinion. This is a national statistic. Buyers making the national median income, so the median income nationally, in 2024 probably should expect to spend about 35% of their income for housing. That's a lot of money out of every paycheck to go towards a house payment. I get it, but it's reasonable. When you start dipping over 40%, that's when things get dangerous, at least in my experience from the foreclosure boom 5-6 years ago that we experienced locally. It was those that were tipped over 40% of their gross income that went to a monthly payment on their mortgage, those were the ones that got in trouble. Now put that in perspective. Just 2 months ago in October, it was 30 national statistic nationwide. It was 39% of the median income that was being applied to the mortgage payment. So that's actually dropped a little bit here in the last couple months, which is nice to see. Maybe we're seeing some wages increase. I'm not sure what's all kind of gone into that to see that shift. Maybe part of it's been some pricing has gone down a little bit, or concessions have applied enough to affect that. So I expect that to moving into 2024 to remain the same, or hopefully maybe even get a little better for buyers. I think we need to be respectful that the cost of goods and services has increased since 2020, and part of that's sheerly because now all of a sudden people need to make more money to afford to live in the communities that they choose to live in. So it's always a chain reaction effect, right? Anyway, the problem with high mortgage rates, they're prompting homeowners to stay out of the market and stay put. Interesting statistic. And this is a whiplash of low, super suppressed interest rates between that 2010 and 2019 marker. 2/3 of homeowners with mortgages have rates that are below 4%. So 66% of homeowners nationwide have a mortgage rate that's less than 4%. That statistic is as much true locally and in the state of Wyoming as it is nationally. And 90%, here's the kicker, 90% have rates that are less than 6%. So you can see why we've come into this bottleneck and lack of inventory and lack of properties for sale. We've seen this up even 15 months ago. This was being created, this bottleneck was being formed, and we've seen it coming down the pipeline. And here it is, we're still living it, we're still breathing it, and it's as much of the marketplace today as it was 15 months ago. There's little incentive for these folks to sell unless something changes in their familial status, and we'll jump into that here in a little bit. But at the end of the day, if they don't have a reason to sell, they're not going to sell and become buyers, because the higher rates will cost them more per month, and it raises their average cost of living. Now, those who list their homes for sale or purchase a new one will generally have to do so because of a change in their familial situation. Children are born, children leave the house, marriage, you get married, combined households, you get divorced, change in job. Interesting statistic coming up here, 50 million job changes predicted coming into 2024. So, and as those job changes, maybe we're not going to see so much of the stay-at-home workers. We're going to see some of those folks kind of get back into the office space and commercial realm and go back to work at their place of employment. So I think there's a lot going on there. There's also the conversation of people die. You sell because of those reasons. You don't need it no more, or you're relocating into your retirement home or facility. Those will be some of the strongest reasons kind of moving into 2024 that really kind of bring inventory to the market. Now back to our buyers. I mentioned just a bit ago about the buyer exhaustion and those that just threw up their hands, when did something else. They were tired of the stress, they're tired of the time, they were tired of losing. It is not by human nature to lose as much as some of these buyers did, but they did, so they kind of quit. We're going to call them the on deck or up to bat buyers moving into 2024. As interest rates kind of recess a little bit and become softer than 8%, or even 7%, we're going to see a shift, and we're going to see those buyers come back into the real estate market. Now the mindset is different. Keep this in mind. Buyer psychology is going to be different in 2024. We realize now where rates could go, and they could go higher, right? But if they go less, we now understand even more what the importance of buy the home, rent the rate. So you buy your home, you buy your piece of real estate, you buy your commercial building, whatever. Get locked in on some solid terms on a fixed interest rate that's fixed for so many years, whether it's 10, 15, 20, 30, whatever, and get yourself situated and not be subject to rental prices and the volatility of the rental world. I think because 2024 is an election year, election years nationwide are volatile in the real estate market, but even more so locally in Northeast Wyoming. We see the ebbs and flows of this every 4 years in those election cycles. I kind of anticipate that we see rates, and I don't know how long they'll stick around, but if you see rates go below 6%, you better jump as fast as you can. I don't expect them personally, based on what I've read and researched and kind of put into doing this video or this meeting for you today. I don't think they're going to go below 5 3/4. Maybe I'm wrong. Obviously, none of us know where interest rates are going to land from day to day, but I feel like based on what we're seeing, we're going to see for sure rates kind of settle out in that 6 to 7% range. We'll just call it 6 to 6.8 this year, moving into 2024. But by the end of the year, because in its election year, I think you're going to see a good number of people that have bought in the last year to year and a half. They're going to be refinancing for sure. They bought the home or bought their property and rented the rate. They're going to be refinancing. You're going to see buyers getting off the fence. Our up-to-bat buyers are going to be getting in the game. All of which is going to keep the speed of our market going, or maybe increase that speed of the market again. Let's see here. We already see the 10-year Treasury bonds kind of indicating this. So if you watch the bonds market, we already kind of see these indicators falling into play, and I think if you are mindful of those, you'll get some clues moving throughout 2024 on when the right time is going to be for you. I expect a tight first quarter, similar to what we're seeing here in the last quarter of 2023, where there's not a lot of inventory. Buyers are kind of, but I think the buyers that get in the game right now stand to benefit more than those later, based on buyer pressure and pricing for real estate. But by the end of the year, I think it's going to start to be a little bit of a runaway again, and you're going to see the needle kind of tip back over into the seller side of the market. So be mindful of that, and that could very likely happen if certain conditions fall in place. Here's an interesting fact that I stumbled across that I think is important, because the younger generation right now seems a little put out and frustrated, especially as much as anybody in the marketplace, and rightfully so. Like, housing affordability is a challenge. The average age for a first-time home buyer in 2023 has gone up to 35 years old. So there's an impact of what the real estate market has done in the last 2.5-3 years. It's pushed that average first-time home buyer age up to 35. So I think it's unfortunate for the younger folks trying to get started and get into the marketplace, but it's just a fact of what's going on right now. I also think the real estate market's probably going to be stable throughout 2024 because the unemployment rate nationwide and in the state of Wyoming is super low still. Nationwide, it's around 3.7% at the time of doing this video. I forgot to look up the state number, but I know we're not much different for the state of Wyoming. So we see lower unemployment rates affecting the real estate market. And I think the Fed, all the people that sit on the Fed board, Federal Reserve Board, they expected unemployment rates to go up as they pushed up that interest rate and pushed the whole inflation factor, and it didn't. Like, good job, America, for going to work and putting your head down and getting the job done. I think kudos to all of us that get up and go to work, because that statistic right now is definitely sticking out to everybody in the world, not just locally or in the state of Wyoming or in the United States. So motivations behind people buying and selling this year. Family ties will continue to intensify. We've seen a good number of out-of-state people move to Wyoming. That's no hidden secret at this point in the last 3 years. Now we're going to see some grandparents, parents, whatever, start to follow their family members as they get settled in here and realize that Wyoming is going to be a safe place for them and a good place for them to thrive and become a part of our communities. So we're going to see family ties start to intensify. We're going to see families need a bigger space. People did not quit having kids the last 3 years. So we got that going on. And likewise, we got people that are going to be downsizing at the same time as children move out of the household. The interesting figure that I seen on that this last week is the average age for somebody to move out of the house right now in the United States was, I think, 24 or 25 years of age. So that may have changed here a little in the last few years. I typically don't follow that number so much, but I think it's important to know, based on the previous statistic I showed where the average first-time homebuyer age is 35 years old. I think there's a correlation there. We may continue to see that moving throughout the next few years. You're going to see back to love the house, rent the rate. We're also going to see some of this mindset change back to buyer, and we're going to add in seller psychology. People are going to say, okay, we can let go of our 4% now to get a 6% loan because we got such an equity gap from where before we bought our property. Or excuse me, they have an equity gap based on from when they bought their property to what it's worth today. And it's going to be that equity gap that they carry over to the next purchase, and then they're going to calculate in what their new loan is going to be, even with a 2% higher interest rate or a 3% higher interest rate. If they get to upgrade a neighborhood or change location that's more desirable or fits their needs better or their wants, there's going to be some of that. Maybe you want a second home. That's going to be trending here throughout the next few years still. You're gonna see that equity transfer, and they're going to accept the higher interest rates to compromise on what they want or need. And again, if rates go down below 5, they'll be refinancing, and they'll be sitting secure. They'll want that vacation home. I just mentioned that. They'll want to upgrade their neighborhoods. Maybe they want to change school districts. Life changes, things change, your wants and needs change. We're going to see a good lot of that coming into 2024, I feel like. Legacy real estate. Now this is something that's going to be interesting. I don't know if this is going to play out, but it's sure being talked about in my world among experts across the nation. There's good conversation occurring that you're going to see, like, grandparents or family of the older generation, the baby boomers, be selling, downsizing, cashing out, and giving part of their equity to maybe their children or their grandchildren. If it's their grandchildren, they're likely first-time home buyers. They're going to be moving into the marketplace. If it's their children, maybe they're trying to move up or change neighborhoods, or things we've already covered to satisfy those needs and wants. And then they're going to turn around and these buyers these folks that we're going to call the legacy real estate people, they're going to be downsizing, and they're going to be paying cash. So they're not going to be subject to interest rates. They're going to be paying cash for that smaller house or that smaller property, and they're going to have less maintenance, and their cost of living is going to decrease. So it'll be a really kind of a win-win for all generations that are involved, and they're going to be transferring equity. Could be as small as, I think IRS code, you can still gift up to like $13,000 per person. You may see stuff like that where it's not taxable, or you might see where it's larger lump sums, but they maneuver in non-traditional facets, we'll call. Relocation, I tapped on that a few minutes ago, the 50 million job changes. It's a lot of job changes. And change in work and change of life. Like, yeah, people get tired of their work or their life changes. I've pretty well beat that horse around for now, so I'll let that go. So anyway, Things to monitor locally. I think this is going to be important. Things to monitor locally moving into 2024. Um, Here recently, there's been conversation of coal mine layoffs again. We haven't seen that for 5 years. Uh, Now that's a conversation piece again. It's a pretty small number at this point, but I think it's tied in directly with some other things happening in our local and state economies that I think we need to be mindful of. So even though we see things kind of happening out there nationwide, we got this going on locally. And we all know from 2016 and 17, it creates its own real estate market here and can drive things a lot differently. Uh, Again, 2024 is an election year, which always produces outliers for our local real estate market. A lot of times we don't know what these outliers are until we get in the middle of the hunt. And I don't think this upcoming election cycle is going to be any different, all of which will carry on effects into even 2025 most likely. The oil rig count, this is something I keep track of on a weekly basis. In 12 months time, we've lost 33% of the oil rigs drilling in the state of Wyoming, according to Baker Hughes count. I think it's enough at 33%. That's enough to start being a conversation piece again. Which, back to the coal mine layoff conversation, these things are directly kind of tied to each other, especially with the natural gas market. We've seen early in 2023 where the natural gas market was still pretty high, and then it fell rapidly throughout the first quarter and into the second quarter. By the third quarter, it had picked back up a little bit, and then here all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, it's tailing off again. So I can't tell you what that all means for us locally, other than we better sit up and pay attention and be wondering what's going on. Because there's only going to be so much of this out of state and out of town buyer movement that's going to keep supporting the real estate market, all of which we may see some slip in here that nationally we don't see in the real estate market, or vice versa. Things could correct in the energy sector, and poof, there it goes again. I also think with this year was record prices in the cattle market, and Campbell County or Northeast Wyoming being a large producer of protein, that was super important, and that helped kind of hold up the real estate market this year and hold the ceilings up. Moving into 2024, I think that's going to change. We already seen in those markets that the pricing there has already started to retract and readjust as moving through the fall market, which again isn't so typical. And I think that all means something, especially with this next one. Consumer credit card debt by itself is at its highest levels ever. That tells me people are getting to the end of their wallets. There's going to be, some of these people need to get some appreciation in their houses to be able to refinance, clean up that credit card debt, get rid of some of those high payments. Which has always kind of frustrated me. I'll just point this out. Everybody was complaining about 8% interest rates on a mortgage, but you're willing to pay 20+% for a credit card. You can't have it both ways. You're talking on both sides of your mouth here. So with credit card debt being at an all-time record high, and we've seen this. I called this out early in the year. Wells Fargo bailed out of the mortgage business in January, and I called it out. The only reason they did was to get in the credit card business. Well, now you know why. Boom, they're making way more money selling credit cards and loan money that way than they ever did with mortgages. So congratulations to Wells Fargo making a solid move there. At least from my point of view, the first 11 months you've made a pretty solid move. But anyway, I think people are at the end of their wallets, and housing affordability is high, cost of services and consumer goods is high. We're just on a whole new playing level here, and I think that will have an effect on us locally. And I've outlined these different markets to kind of keep track of moving throughout 2024. None of which I don't think is going to produce enough supply to see a housing crash. We're not going to see it. May we see more foreclosures enter the market? Yeah, it's possible. Is it going to drop the price, the average sale price for our communities? The answer is no. Not going to happen in 2024. So anyway, recommendations moving forward. Buyers, I'm just going to tell you this. My thoughts are buy what you can now, or buy what you want now, and refinance it later. If what you want or what you need is available, jump on it and go. Sellers, get ready to sell whenever you want. Market's not going to tail off as much as you think. I know that there's some media out there in the world that's painting a bleak picture and a crash is coming. From the information and the data that I've seen so far, I can't say that I agree. I think it's either going to keep stable or we're going to see prices go up again. And 12 months from now, I guess we'll revisit this and see where it went. I think there's going to be, buyers, speaking again to the buyers, you need to buy now, because right now there's less buyer pressure. There's less buyers in the marketplace. There's less buyers that are qualified and ready to go. If them interest rates drop another 0.5%, you're going to be competing against a whole new wave of buyer that we haven't seen for a year, maybe 2 years. So I think you better buy now if you can. You can always refinance it later and get the lower rates if those lower rates surface. The one thing, if rates do fall, there's only one thing that's going to happen for sure. Prices are going to go up because those on deck or up to bat buyers. Buyer demand will surface again or increase, and you may be regretting your decision to wait. Now keep in mind, no one knows officially what the interest rate market will do from week to week, from day to day. If the rates go down, you can refinance. If the rates go up, hey, at least you bought a home or a piece of real estate. You got secure. Again, back to those fixed terms, number of years, and fixed interest rate, and you're secure and you can ride this out and start building some equity, right? Pay down the loan, increase the gap from what it's worth to what you owe, that your equity position. And if you're cash, obviously it isn't going to matter. The loan side isn't going to matter, and you're safe putting your cash into the real estate market, because from all, like I said, all data that I see, things are going to stabilize, if not increase. So anyway, let me know if you'd like more information on this. My apologies. As usual, I get a little lengthy, but I have a lot of detail to share and a lot of good information that I hope you all find useful. And if you want to dive into what it means to you more specifically for your area or your motivations or your goals or objectives, I'd be glad to sit down with you and visit. And if you'd like to start looking, if you're a buyer and you'd like to start looking around casually and seeing what's for sale and getting into properties, we'd be glad to show them to you. That's what we do. We help people buy and sell real estate. So we also have access to some homes that are unlisted publicly. The people that own them would sell them if certain terms were met, but there's a certain number of sellers right now that are gun shy of even going on the market because they don't have a plan after they sell, and they can't just wing it. Like, there's not enough cushion or availability of properties for sale to wing it no more. There's no taking a chance is slim. And here's an interesting, an interesting figure that's coming into 2024 that I wanted to share with y'all, and it attributes to sellers holding their properties, not publicly for sale, willing to sell if certain terms are met. Right now, coming into 2024, inventory from a year ago is down 5%. Okay. It's predicted by the end of 2024, moving into 2025, that inventory will be down 14%. So we're going to see even less properties publicly advertised for sale. I think if that prediction holds true, it's going to be another wild, twisty, turny 2024 like we've seen in 2023. All of which, back to my initial comment, the real estate market's in danger, and some folks, if you choose to wait, it may not be pretty. But anyway, thanks again. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a subscriber, and leave some comments down below. Share your thoughts. Maybe your thoughts are a little different than mine. I wouldn't mind hearing about them. And my survey, I forgot to mention that. That's out on, I did a different video on that, but even people that filled out that survey that I sent out a month ago, there was only it was a very small percentage of people that felt like the market was going to go down. From their perspective, it was going to stay the same or go up. So even those that participated in that survey kind of recognize those things moving forward as well. And the data, as I'm presenting, pretty well supports that. So anyway, thanks again. Thanks for tuning in, and stay in touch. Talk to you later.